Welcome, Cowboy fans, Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. We're about to talk facts. What's going on, Jared? What's going on, D Block? D Block got me rolling over here. Let me read these comments as people come in. I've been off a couple of days, so I don't know how many folks are going to roll in, but I'm gonna get back rolling. I've had some things going on that I had to do in my profession, and actually, so it's really kept me busy. As a matter of fact, I won't be able to be on long this session, but I'll be back tonight for the late show. So we'll see how it goes for the late show. But it doesn't matter how many tune in. We will still have some conversation, even if it's just me, Jared, and D Block. Jared says, this feels too late. We need to get our stuff together in the off season. Yes, for sure. He says, we right now are the dogs barking for help when our family have all long fallen asleep. Yes, I agree with you. D Block 88, what's up? He said, Micah trying to get up out of Dallas, bro. And I'm gonna go a lot more in depth in this in a video I'm going to do later on tonight. But I applaud Micah Parsons. I applaud Micah Parsons, but there are pros and there are so many cons to what Micah Parsons is doing. Micah Parsons is doing something that I applaud him for. And he's doing this in Micah Parsons fashion. I'm just telling us, this is what we're going to have to deal with Micah Parsons the whole time he's here. Micah Parsons is talking about he wants to be a Dallas Cowboy for life. I don't understand who Micah Parsons people are. I mean, it just seems like he just says the first thing comes to his mind. You know, it doesn't seem like he thinks when he's doing a lot of this talking, because he should not be saying a lot of the things that he's saying. And I'm saying this from the perspective of a father. I'm saying this from the perspective of a businessman. I'm saying this even from the perspective of if I was another player, if I was another player, not only on his team, but if I was a player in this league, Micah Parsons is not thinking about a lot of the things he's saying, and this is dangerous territory he's in. This is dangerous territory that he's in. Now, let me give you the reasons why I applaud Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is putting his money literally where his mouth is. Some of these news outlets, and I'm telling you, they're reporting on something that I already reported on last week, but they're just now making it into an ordeal. Because Micah Parsons is saying that he doesn't have to have $40 million to sign with the Dallas Cowboys. Well, I know why he's saying this. He's saying this because that's Nick Bosa money. That's why he's saying this. That's Nick Bosa money. But the reality is, while we use all these things like quarterback pressures, Micah Parsons has the most quarterback pressures, or Micah Parsons, he has the most double teams. And they're not saying the most double teams right now. They're saying the most quarterback pressures. But we have to understand something. Quarterback pressures, I'm just telling us, quarterback pressures is just a cute stat for saying he didn't sack the quarterback. It's a cute stat. I mean, hey, I like it. I mean, you know, we can dig into those stats if we want to. You know, and we say, oh, those stats tell the whole story. But it's strange to me that we didn't want those stats to tell the whole story when Dak came back in 2022 and when Dak Prescott had the turnovers, when Dak Prescott was having the interceptions that he was having, that we could have easily attributed at least 6 of those interceptions to tip balls. But no one wants to hear that, do they? No one wants to use those cute stats when it comes to every position on the field. What if we started doing this with wide receivers? Hey, CeeDee Lamb, he had 12 catches today, but he would have had 18 had Cooper Rush put the ball where it was supposed to be. What if we start doing this for everybody? You think about this. We're talking like we're using coulda, woulda, shoulda things. The reality is this. This is where I come from. Did you sack the quarterback or not? I was double teamed. Did you beat the double team or not? I want y'all to think about how crazy this stat would have been back in the days. If someone would have said, hey, he didn't get the quarterback, man, but boy, he sure put pressure on him. He was running them all over the field, but you lost the game. I'm saying all of that to say this. Micah Parsons is an elite pass rusher. But the facts remain the facts. And I'm going to stay on this heel because it's the truth. But he's undersized. He's undersized. The reason why he gets these quarterback pressures because he has elite speed. He does. Speed, quickness. Micah Parsons has everything you want in a defensive end. Fast, quick, strong, got a few moves. It's exactly what you want. But he's missing one thing. Size. Size. And everybody keeps spewing out all the stats about Micah Parsons, but but we're not acknowledging. I've already started digging into these numbers. Micah Parsons is doing this against lesser competition. He racks up a lot of stats. That's not saying anything bad about him. He's an elite pass rusher. And when he gets against guys who maybe are not as big or they're not as skillful, he dominates them. Of course he does. He's skillfully and he's skillfully superior to them. But you'll notice, watch this. Do y'all know better teams have better tackles? Better teams have better tackles. Better teams have bigger tackles. Better teams have skillful tackles. And when you get those kinds of tackles, even when they're going against the Nick Bosas of the world, good tackles can manage to handle those guys enough to where maybe they get a pressure, but they don't get a sack. Maybe they get a pressure, but the tackle is strong enough to where he can push him around the quarterback or push him away from the quarterback. Quarterback can get out of the pocket, buy him a little bit more time. These bigger tackles, they're more successful against the Myles Garretts, the Nick Bosas, the Watts. They're more successful. And when you get a Micah Parsons against those bigger tackles, they're going to be way more successful against Micah Parsons, and that's the reason why he doesn't eat against the better teams. See, this is one of the reasons why I've been saying even with Mike McCarthy. Because when I think about Micah Parsons, we make some of these same arguments about Dak Prescott. We'll make these same arguments. We'll say things like, yeah, he's got a lot of wins. But when we start looking and really breaking things down, is he having big wins against big teams. And I must admit, I mean, in actuality, we've seen Dak Prescott have some humongous games against great teams. We've seen it. But those games sometimes will get overshadowed. They'll get overshadowed because of a defensive breakdown or a play that someone else didn't make. And then they'll turn around and they'll lose that game, and so all of that goes to the wayside. But we've seen Dak in some of these big games where he's won them. But under the Mike McCarthy tenure, you know, we've watched them lose big games to the Buffalo Bills, big games to the Miami Dolphins. We've seen them lose big games in the playoffs. We've seen them do these things. And so people will use these same things against Dak Prescott. When you look at some of those big games, man, you just take just 2 games ago. We're singing the praises of Micah Parsons in the Carolina Panthers game, but we were not singing his praises in the Cincinnati Bengals game. We were not singing his praises in the Houston Texans game. We were somewhat singing his praises in the first half of the Philadelphia Eagles game, but the difference in those games, you'll notice the competition was better. They lost those games. And so he puts up a lot of stats. And because Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback too, whether people face it or not, Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback, and he puts up tremendous numbers. I mean, this stuff Cooper Rush is doing right now is nothing. Dak was killing these same teams. Dak was putting up 4 touchdowns against these same teams, amassing huge amounts of yards against these teams. And Dak has actually put up yards against good teams, great teams. But when those games amount to losses, a lot of that greatness gets lost. Now, Dak has done this, like I said, against great teams, but it gets lost because you lost. Micah isn't even, in some respects, showing out in some of these big games, but it's how he looks in the lesser games. Because watch what I tell you. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their offensive line is different. Mike Zimmer is going to really have to come up with something, because Micah rushing from the left side of the line is not going to be enough. It's just not going to be enough. They got some big tackles. They do. Both sides, they got some big tackles. He's going to have to figure out a way to get Micah free, because if he just tries to go up against those tackles, he's not going to win most of those battles. And I'm saying all of this because Micah is saying he doesn't need $40 million. And I know where he's going with this. That's Nick Bosa money. And we've actually seen Nick Bosa do this. What Nick Bosa, we can say this about Nick Bosa unequivocally. Whether someone wants to say Micah Parsons is better than Nick Bosa or not, I don't think he is. I think Micah Parsons' disadvantage when it comes to Nick Bosa is his size. Nick Bosa is a bigger, more ferocious defensive end. He can work within the passing game. He can work within the run game. This is why Nick Bosa is so effective. He's so effective. I mean, I'm not worried about quarterback pressures. I'm not. I'm more concerned about sacks. I'm concerned about the real. Are you getting the tackles? Are you involved in the run game? I mean, we see some of this same stuff with Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a ferocious defensive end, and a part of that ferociousness is his size. Micah Parsons, because he's undersized, it requires more skill. Micah Parsons is actually linebacker size. He is. And so I think it's really clever in a sense of what Micah is doing, because he's taking away the argument that I need to be paid like Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett. Because he's taking away the arguments that they could possibly make. I mean, you could talk to me about quarterback pressures all you want to. But what about the sacks? What about the tackles? Because you can literally go and look at these things on Micah Parsons and see this stuff clear. What's going on, Crush? Micah becoming a free agent, and the Ravens or the Eagles or 49ers getting here making me sick. Oh, no, he's not going to be a free agent. I can tell you that up front. He's not going to be a free agent. Micah Parsons is going to be playing for the Dallas Cowboys. If y'all are not paying attention, and I'm saying this not in a mean way, Micah Parsons, and why I say what he's doing is so dangerous. It's like he's begging the Dallas Cowboys to sign him. He's begging them to do it. You're in a contract. You're getting ready to play on your 5th-year option. And you're literally begging the Cowboys and saying, well, I'll take $30 million rather than $40 million, which still isn't nothing to sniff at now. Let's stop acting like, he's doing the Cowboys such a favor that $30 million ain't no money. I mean, that's some money, man. And there is a difference between $30 and $40 million, especially when you start doing those taxes. But Micah is doing something that, I mean, he obviously wants to play on this team. And that's why I don't think he's going anywhere. Rod, appreciate the super sticker, my brother. What's going on? Keedy, appreciate that, man. Keedy said 30, 40 million for almost man. I'm in the wrong profession. That's why I just said, Keedy boy. I mean, let's start back like 30 million ain't nothing. I mean, Mike can talk about I don't have to have 40. I'll take 30. I mean, let's start back like that's no money. Let's stop acting like that's no money. Keedy boy, appreciate that $2 super chat. I mean, let's stop acting like that's no money. I mean, Micah throwing these numbers around like there's no money. It is money. But what he's doing is smart, because I think Micah is taking away the argument from the Joneses that if they want to come to the table and say, okay, what about Myles Garrett? What about Nick Bosa? Okay, I'll take $10 million less. How do you argue now? Because the reality is, typically when you're arguing about these contracts, these guys, they want $1 million more than the highest paid player. Micah Parsons is saying, I was looking at Nick Bosa's contract today. I'm kind of digging into some of the contracts and stuff. And, for example, when you look at Nick Bosa's contract, Nick Bosa's contract is kind of backloaded. He signed a 5-year extension. So Micah is coming upon that same precipice or that same point in his contract where it's time to get the rookie, the extension from the rookie deal. And so when you kind of look at Bosa's deal, it's really strange, but this is exactly how they do them. So you basically, it's like you kind of go in, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like you tear up the 5th-year option, and then you start, you go off the signing bonus, for example. Nick Bosa's base salary was $1 million in 2023. I'm not sure if this was his 5th-year option, so excuse me on that part. I got to do a little bit more research, but I'm just looking at the contract is structured. So it was a $10 million, it was a $50 million signing bonus. So, of course, what they do, they prorate that. They're going to prorate that over 5 years of that contract. So basically, he's got $50 million in his pocket. Boom. That part's guaranteed. So there's $122 million guaranteed. So of course you get the 50, and then the other part of the money comes in the rest of as the contract evolves. So because as it evolves, So $10 million signing bonus. He hit him for an $11 million cap hit in 2023. So now he's in the second year of that extension. Base salary, $1 million. There's some more of that signing bonus. They got to put that on there. He gets the roster bonus. He gets the whatever this option is. So there's $14 million. He accounts towards the cap. Now, this is the part where the 49ers start to get a little antsy. Because the purpose of this contract is they were hoping to hit on that contract. They were hoping to hit on that contract in either 2023 or 2024. They were looking at those as Super Bowl years. Well, they got there, but they didn't win. Injury-ridden season, riddled season in 2024. They're not going to get there unless there's a miracle run. So now there is talks of Kyle Shanahan going to another team. I mean, this talk is insane to me. They're talking about Kyle Shanahan going to another team. But so now, if you don't have Kyle Shanahan, who do you bring in if that happens? But now you're about to start hitting the teeth of that deal, because now you have the $10 million, here, the signing bonus. for 2025, the base salary, and then he's going to basically hit for $20 million in 2025. And then in 2026, I think this is the number that Micah is talking about, or he's alluding to, because in that year, it's a $42 million hit, which could possibly be the last year of the deal. Could possibly be the last year of the deal, which basically is going to get Bosa most of that money, that $122 million basically guaranteed. Because whenever you're looking at contracts, don't look at the number where they're talking about 5-year $170 million. No, you look at the guaranteed money, because that's the money that they're typically going to get. Because once they hit that guaranteed point, then they're either going to renegotiate or they're going to let you go. So when you start talking about the $40 million, I think that's kind of where Micah Parsons is going. And so the reason why I applaud Micah Parsons in this, and then I'll read some more comments. The reason why I applaud Micah Parsons in this, because he's about to do three things. One of three or four things. One, he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's not only said it once, he's saying it. I don't have to be the highest paid. I don't need $40 million a year as a defensive end. I don't have to have a historical contract like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I'll put my money where my mouth is. But watch this. This is the part where I applaud him. He's about to expose Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Micah Parsons is saying you can no longer say the money is the problem, because I'm giving you an out on the money. I'm giving you the option of giving, or I'll take a $10 million pay cut if that's what it takes. See, I do believe Micah Parsons realizes, because I'm not going to take this away from him. I do believe Micah Parsons realizes, because he was saying it early in the season, he can't do it alone. And what Micah is saying is, I need another big-time player. He's right about that. He does. He needs another big-time player. And because he knows he's on a team to where they keep using the excuse of money, he's saying, I'll take $10 million less. So now he just took away from them the fact you have no excuse on waiting to sign me, because I've already told you I don't need to be the highest paid. So just go ahead and get me a deal done. I need y'all to get my deal done now. I said this earlier before in the season. I would have already, if I'm signing Micah Parsons, I would have already got that deal done. Brandon Aubrey, if I'm signing him, I'm going to go ahead and get that deal done. Kavontae Turpin, if I'm signing him, I'm going to go ahead and get that deal done. Odighi Zua, all these guys, whoever I'm going to sign, I'm going to go ahead and get those deals done. I'm not waiting until they go out in free agency or let them hit free agency and see what the offers look like they did with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, waiting until everyone gets signed. That's dumb. That's poor salary cap management. No, you get it done early as possible. You don't wait for the leaves to drop. No, you drop the first leaf. You set the market. This is one of the dumbest things I've heard Stephen Jones say over the years. Well, we don't want to set the market. Why not? Why do you not want to set the market? Because the one who sets the market is the one who typically winds up paying the least amount of money, unless they wait until the Cowboys do at the end. And then you basically do what you said you didn't want to do. You set the market. Dumb talk. So Micah has already, he's exposing them, as in saying, you have no excuse in signing me early because I don't want the highest amount of money, so we don't have to worry about negotiating that. But here is the third one and why I'm applauding him. Micah Parsons is trying to force the hand of Jerry and the hand of Stephen Jones to make a free agency acquisition. He's not talking about a small one. If Micah's going to leave $10 million on the table, don't misconstrue what Micah is doing. Micah, I'm going to give him credit, man. Micah Parsons is applying some serious pressure. He's putting pressure on them now. See, y'all been talking about the contract. Y'all been talking about money. Y'all been talking about why you can't play in free agency. I'm giving you the opportunity. Here it is. The one thing that is going to come from this is he's exposing them. He's going to expose them as either, okay, that was the problem, now we make a move, or Micah Parsons is going to expose them as a liar. Let me read some comments, and I'm going to get to the cons of what Micah Parsons is doing and why I don't like it. Jared said, Parsons, at times you can argue is the fastest player on the entire field in some of these games. He has generational speed for an outside linebacker. Exactly. The argument you're making is the exact argument critics make to shade Dak. Ain't that something? Exactly what I'm doing. See, we're giving this argument to Micah Parsons. We won't give this argument to Dak Prescott. And I think that Dak has actually played big in big games. But when you get the loss, it don't matter, especially when you're Dak Prescott. You don't get that. They're not giving you those arguments, but they keep making these arguments, and this is why people keep talking all this crazy stuff. Jared said it's the reason why Parsons, when he plays San Francisco, the Eagles, he doesn't get many sacks. Trent Williams and Lane Johnson basically shut him down. Bingo. Micah Parsons eats against smaller guys or less skilled guys because he is elite. But his Achilles heel is his size. That's his Achilles heel. Bigger tackles, less tackles for him. Bigger tackles, less sacks for him. Micah Parsons can't win a bull rush fest with Tristan Wirfs of Tampa Bay. It won't work. Oh, this is about to be a test for the Cowboys. And this is why, for me, I'm going to show you something on X that people keep doing that's just aggravating to me. Myles Garrett is 6'4", 271, jacked as hell. Micah is 6'3", 245. See, what Micah is doing, Jared, is genius in a sense, because rather than him haggling over $5 or $10 million and someone saying you're not as good as Micah Parsons, you're not as good as Nick Bosa, you're not as good as Watt, you're not as good as Myles Garrett, you're undersized. I'll take all those arguments away. I don't even have to make the money they're making. What Micah is doing is absolutely genius. What's going on, Nisi? What's going on? Marlon Brando, what's going on? He just had 2 sacks against the Eagles. Yeah, but notice what you said. He had 2 sacks. Yeah, I looked at all his numbers. And you're doing exactly what people doing, and I don't know if you're doing this as a positive or a negative. But I've already looked at all of his numbers. And with him in particular, the trend is the same. Better teams have better tackles. And against the better teams, he doesn't register tackles and he doesn't register sacks. He barely registers sacks. And in big games, where is he? Now, people have to understand, I'm giving you the facts in both instances. Micah Parsons has elite skill. There is no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, no matter how much skill you have, you can't overcome certain things about yourself. You can't. You can't do it. Let's say I'm a highly skilled runner. And I'll give you a prime example. My son was a highly skilled runner. He almost went to state, and I think had he kept at it, he probably could have went to college for track. But he was blowing everyone off the track in the district. He got to regionals. I think is it regionals? Blowed everybody off the track. Blowed everybody off the track. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, it's he got the regionals. So yeah, district. He blew everybody off the track. But when he got to the regional track meet and they brought everybody in from everywhere around, you can't overcome what you're not. I think he ran one of the meets. He ran in the 10s. But when you get to the next level of guys, those guys are running 10s just in the practice runs. It's hard to run a 10-2 if you run a 10-9. It just is what it is. I mean, if your average is a 10-9, 10-8, and you go up against guys who are running 10-2s and 10-1s, unless you run out of your shoes into the matrix, you're not beating those guys. You're not, because you can't be who you're not. And it's the same thing sometimes as a skilled player. You know, you may be really, really good, but sometimes you just run up against someone where your size is a disadvantage. Your size is a disadvantage to you. Or whether you be too big or too small, your size is a disadvantage to you. And Micah Parsons, I think he's out of place. But hey, anyone you want to make the argument that he's not, you can. But if you look at defensive ends, that is not their size. I mean, it's not the size of a defensive end. Michael, to me, is more of a hybrid. And I think they would do him some favors if they found a way to work him like both ways. I mean, work him at linebacker and did some more blitzing from that position. I mean, I think he would be absolutely dangerous, but he wants to be defensive end. I don't know. I want to see what Mike Zimmer does with him. But at the end of the day, Micah Parsons, while he is highly skilled, elite, blah, 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 you got to think about it like this. He's not Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald was undersized. But the sheer power of Aaron Donald is insane. So Aaron Donald, what he lacks as in height, he makes up for in strength. I mean, some people were saying he was like one of the strongest guys in the NFL. So Aaron Donald could do things to people that a guy like Micah Parsons can't because he's more streamlined. And so it's not necessarily a knock on Micah Parsons. It's just he can't overcome. I mean, you can't overcome when you're undersized going against bigger guys. And you got skill and they got skill. So you're not going to win those battles a lot of times. You're not going to win those battles. You're not. And that becomes the problem for Micah Parsons. But make no mistake about it. It's not a knock on Micah Parsons. It is what it is. The defense is better with him on the field. Yes, it is. Micah Parsons he can be a menace. And I do believe that Micah is saying the same thing he was saying at the beginning of the season. He wants some help. Because if you can get someone else that can rush the passer, then Michael knows I can be that much more effective. Now I am harder to stop because I can use my speed. You can scheme me ways to get to the quarterback. But at this point in time, just lining him up on the left end is not going to work. But I like what Micah is doing. It's genius. Every argument I just made, Micah Parsons is taking He's taken the argument away because he's saying that if I'm the guy who's signing him, he's saying you don't have to worry about making the argument about Nick Bosa. You don't have to worry about making the argument about Myles Garrett. You don't have to worry about making the argument against however I'm doing in these games or my size. No, because I don't even want to be the highest paid defensive end. What he's doing is genius from that perspective. I just said it. He's saying you have no excuse not to sign me. Because if you're telling me that I'm not worth being paid as the highest defensive end, I ain't telling you We don't even have to make that argument because I don't want to be the highest paid defensive end. I don't know how his agent feels about it. Maybe he's in on it. Maybe he told him you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to get that kind of pay based on this is going to be their arguments. Because I was saying this, Dak Prescott contract. I was saying this, that a lot of times people get worried about these numbers. What Dak got way above what I was thinking. Never would have thought that, but I know why it happened because the Cowboys waited. But I was actually saying during the season, if I was Dak Prescott during the season, I would have went to the Cowboys and said, hey, because I would take like a Patrick Mahomes type deal. Like, hey, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a discount. 5 years guaranteed at $40 million a year. I would take that. Fully guaranteed no matter what you do. Because I'm going to hit the team for $40 million a year. That's it. But I also got $200 million guaranteed. And people may not realize it, but Dak Prescott actually did do that. Because Dak Prescott already knows when he signed the $231 million guaranteed that once they flip the switch on the contract, that's pretty much what he's going to be guaranteed per season. He'll be guaranteed somewhere between $30 to $42 million, which is what he did. He just did it in a different language. That's why a lot of people don't understand. See, even Dak Prescott, when you look at his contract, see, when they asked Dak Prescott if he would be willing to renegotiate his contract if there was going to be a big free agent out there, Dak Prescott said, yeah, I'd be willing to do something, but I don't have to worry about that because the way my deal is structured, it's built into the contract. What are you talking about, Dak Prescott? Let's look at his contract. See, the thing about Dak Prescott is the cap hits. You might as well ignore these numbers right here. These three numbers right here, the $89 million, the $69 million, and the $61 million. Might as well ignore those. Unless the Cowboys just finally say, we're going to just get from up under Dak's contract and we'll take all those cap hits no matter what. But you know why I know they're not going to do that? Because of this right here. 2029, voidable, 2030. Voidable, 2031. Voidable, 2032. Voidable. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to come right up here because this is where you're probably going to do your operating. Because the signing bonus stuff is that's money pretty much already, it's pretty much money in the bank. So you prorate that over 4 years. You notice how they got them for the first 2 years. This is where you get the majority of the signing bonus. So you're going to get to 2025. This is where you flip the switch right here. You flip the switch and you push 1, 2, 3 down to 1, 2, 3. And if you decide to do the fourth season of 2028, 1, 2, 3, 4. You convert a lot of times, you convert the base salary into signing bonuses so that you can prorate it down into the void years. And so what winds up happening is rather than these cap hits being 89-45, rather than being 67, it'd be 34-35. Rather than it being 61, it's 31-32. And you just push that money on down the road. That's how they've figured out ways to get around these salary caps. That's why it's called voidable years. So Dak, in a sense, kind of did what I was saying, but in a different way. And so when you think about Micah Parsons, even though it pushes money further down the road, it's still less cap hits and you get $31 extra million. But with Micah Parsons, what he's doing is smart in a sense, because we're about to see what Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are made of, because Michael has just taken every argument off the table. See, we don't even have to make these arguments no more. Because surely, if you're saying Micah Parsons is not worth being the highest paid, you can't argue against that he deserves to be in the top 5 paid. Can't argue it. Even being undersized, you can hardly argue that he doesn't deserve to be in the top 5. And so you got, you start dealing with that money and things of that nature. When you start dealing with that kind of money, I mean, Micah Parsons, he set a precedent here. I mean, this is uncharted water, but I applaud him for what he's doing on that end. I applaud him for what he's doing on that end. Now, and let me look at something real quick. So you look at what Micah's talking about. Let's give some more context to this. So Micah has said there's no difference between 30 and 40 million, right? So Nick Bosa is averaging about $34 million. So that's why I said before, let's stop acting like $30 million isn't any money. Because if Micah Parson takes $30 million, where does that put him? This is why I say, you got to look at all of this stuff in its context, because we'll be patting people on the back and we're not really paying attention to what they're doing. Nick Bosa's average is $34 million. If I'm not mistaken, Myles Garrett is about to come up on another extension. Myles Garrett is probably going to leapfrog Nick Bosa. $30 million would still put Micah Parsons at number 2. Micah Parsons isn't dumb either. $30 million average puts him at around number 2. Now, the question becomes, will the Joneses, if you're talking about the top 5, will they be trying to push him around 25? Will Michael go 25? See, he's already set the number. He said, I don't need 40, 30. I'm just telling you, I deal in facts. A lot of people be so emotional about this stuff. I'm not emotional about this stuff. I mean, hey, man, it's not my money. And then even in the grand scheme of things, it's my team, but it's really not my team. I mean, it's not my team. But what Micah is doing, again, I'm going to do a video about this later on and release it in a little bit shorter form. But what Micah's doing, in a sense, I mean, it's kind of genius. Hey, man, I don't need $40 million. Well, who's getting paid $40 million? Will Myles Garrett hit the $40 million mark? Nah, man, there's no difference in $30 million and $40 million. Watch this. Micah is talking Jerry Jones talk almost. Let's see. No state tax in Texas. $34 million to Nick Bosa in California isn't $34 million to Micah Parsons in Texas. Matter of fact, $30 million in Texas, you're still beating Nick. If you're getting $30 million in Texas, you're beating Nick Bosa's $34 million. I remember back in the day when Deion Sanders was in the midst of a divorce. He was out there living in, he was out there living in California. He was playing with them San Francisco 49ers. And I remember they were talking about how Deion Sanders, even way back then, he strategically, at least some say, he strategically got to Dallas when he signed with Dallas reconciled with his wife, got to Dallas, residency set up in Dallas, and then wound up getting a divorce in Texas. You think she'd have got the most money in California? You think she'd have got the most money in Texas? $30 million in Texas is better than $34 million from the tax perspective, even when you're talking about contracts. And so that's why I say you got to listen to what people are saying. When he says, I don't need 40, I'll take 30. Well, that still puts you at number 2. That ain't no money to sneeze at because there's only one defensive end making $30+ million a year. It's Nick Bosa. So basically, he's put himself in the discussion of being the number 2 highest paid defensive end. I do believe he deserves to be paid in the top 5. So, hey, I say you get all the money you can in this league. I'm not about all this giving team friendly deals. I don't think nobody should be saying that stuff. Because if you're saying that stuff, then make sure you go to your job and tell them you don't need no more raises for the rest of your life when you're working at that job. You don't need no more. Because, see, this isn't about, because some people, but you making the wrong comparison. That's millions of dollars compared to what I'm only. No, it's not. It's not. It's about what the position they're working at commands. See, we be talking dollars, but we're not talking cents. No, if you work at a job that commands a lot of money, then you need to get whatever that job commands. Don't be sitting around talking about, well, you know what, man, I came from a job making $40 million. I came from a job making $30,000 a year, and now all of a sudden, because of my skills, I'm being offered a job making $3 million a year. And the average of what everyone makes in my position is around $3 million a year. But hey, man, I've been highly blessed. I'm blessed and highly favored. I come from $30,000. Hey, man, y'all ain't got to pay me $30,000. I'll take $100,000. Foolishness. Foolishness. There's a reason why people typically get paid a certain amount of money because of what they're being asked to do. So when Micah Parsons says there's no difference in 40 and 30, look at this in detail and understand what he's saying. Had anybody checked any defensive end contracts before he said it? Had anybody checked the salaries of any of these defensive ends when he said that? Sounds good before I checked that, didn't it? That's just beautiful when he said it. But when you check the money, $30 million puts him at number 2. $40 million would have put him at number 1 and would have set the market. And Micah's saying, I don't need that kind of money. Put me at around $30 million. That's not money to sniff at either. That is still going to put him in the highest paid defensive ends. And I will not be surprised if the Joneses still trip on this thing with Micah Parsons. What's going on, Wicked? Miss Matrix, what's going on? Micah just said EFF Philly. Oh, F Philly. And not all that lovely, lovely stuff. Loving this new side of him. Yeah, he's saying some things, but I'm going to get into that part as I close. Wicked said, I came across a video of dude blaming Dak's contracts for destroying the Cowboys' inability to sign people, and people were agreeing with that foolishness. It is total foolishness, Wicked, and this is why I'm about to expose the other side of what Micah Parsons is doing. And this is the part that I don't like what he's doing. Let me read a couple of more of these. Micah Parsons has Von Miller talent, but not Von Miller intangibles. Yeah, I don't think he, and you look at, I'm not sure he's even as big as Von Miller. Bosa, Garrett, and those guys have never had a goose egg game like Micah. Woo! Woo! Now, this is why I say people got to look at what Micah's doing. It's genius what he's doing because he's taking away the argument, Lewis, of the argument that anyone could make on him. So he's saying I don't have to be paid like those guys. I just need to be paid within the number. But to even say there's no difference in 40 and 30, folk don't understand. 30 still puts you at number 2 and will probably bump you to number 3 once Myles Garrett gets his extension. Jerry said Peyton's Colts had the same problem for a while against the Patriots and bigger teams. Oh, yes, Freeney was undersized. Freeney and Mathis would get gobbled up by bigger tackles in the playoffs. They were both undersized. I remember that. Yep. All Michael needs is a good pass rushers around him, and he's fine. He's the same size as Von Miller and Lawrence Taylor. So this is what I think he's trying to go for, Marlon Brando. I think Micah realizes, he's already said it early in the season. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but he was complaining about this in the Saints game. I think it was the Saints game, because he was talking about how they schemed against him. Micah said, they chipped me. They put the tight end in motion. They sent the running back. They kept sending people at me. He said, I can't make all the plays. And so what he's arguing for is another player. And let's not discount this. Like I said, $30 million is not chump change, but he's putting pressure on the Joneses, because he just took it off the table of, I don't need $35 million. He didn't even say 35. He said 30. But look at that number that I just showed you. 30 million still puts him in the top 5. Now, let me read a couple of your comments, then I'm gonna dig into this other side of this. Jared dude needs good players. Well, Marlon Brando, let's not make this into no one needs players. I said the same thing about Cooper Rush. Sometimes we're saying things for one player that in actuality every player needs. Every quarterback, including Patrick Mahomes, they need a running game. Sometimes we act like this is exclusive to Dak Prescott, exclusive even to Cooper Rush. No, this is not exclusive. All of these guys need running games. They do. They all, if you're going to be a championship team, you're going to need a running game and you're going to need a defense. I was watching or listening to something the other day, and they were talking about every team that has won the Super Bowl. And they only could find 2 teams that didn't have a top 10 defense that won the Super Bowl. Both of them were Patrick Mahomes. I bet he couldn't do it now. There's a reason why that defense is top 10, maybe might be 11 now, somewhere in there, but you need things around you. There is no player in existence that does not need players around them. Even my GOAT of GOATs in the NBA, Michael Jordan, did some phenomenal things that will never be repeated. But Michael will tell you, he said, I was not Michael Jordan. There would be no Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. There it is. They all need players. So we're not making this into no one needs players for sure, because they all need players, including Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons is actually saying, I know what he's saying. Micah is saying he needs players around him. He does. But I'm about to say something about that in a moment. Yeah, Donald was an anomaly, boy. He had speed and strength. Donald, man, Donald had it all, bro. He was an anomaly. Ray Lewis. Folk don't understand. Ray Lewis was absolutely undersized. But his heart, his skill, unmatched. Heart, skill, strength. Ray Lewis was crazy with it. I've never seen for he had speed and strength. Yeah, I've never seen for a D lineman. He could legit be both defensive and defensive tackle. Crazy work by Aaron Donald. It was. That's why he cried when Demo went down. He didn't cry when Dak went down. Well, he didn't cry when Dak went down because in his mind, Dak, you really make a good point on that though, Marlon Brando. I think that he didn't cry when Dak went down because Micah wants to be the face of the team. Just look at everything he's doing. He wants to be the face of the team. Unequivocally, he wants to be the face of the team. But he's not going to be the face of the team. Dak Prescott is the face of the team, and there's nothing he can do about it. Because even Jerry Jones was very careful to say when he talked about Micah Parsons, he said he's one of the leaders on this team. But everyone knows who's the leader on this team. Everyone knows. Dak Prescott, whether people understand it or not, and I'm telling you, this is going a long way on this team. I didn't see D-Law do it. I didn't even see Micah Parsons do it. I've seen no one do what Dak Prescott has done because I actually thought this was against the rules. I thought that when you were on injured reserve, there was just certain things that you couldn't do with the team. I can't recall when I've seen a quarterback injured still coming to the games, not just the home games. I've seen people do that. Dak Prescott is going to the away games. He's on the field before the games. When they're warming up, he's in the tunnel. He's in the locker room. Dak Prescott is doing what Tony Romo didn't do. And this is why Tony Romo lost the team, because I thought this was, you couldn't do it. But when Tony Romo got injured, Tony separated himself from the team. And then when Tony got healthy, Tony started trying to do things to get the team back. He was trying to get the team to come to his house for a party, for example. I mean, Tony was doing things, but by that time, Dak Prescott was doing the same things he's doing now, he was doing then. And Dak Prescott is one of the ultimate leaders in football, and people do not understand that. Even Colin Cowherd, as much as he hates Dak Prescott, he said Dak Prescott is everything you want in a quarterback. Everything you want. At the podium, in the locker room, everything. He's everything that you want. And so I think Micah is trying to get the leadership of this team. And I don't like that. I don't think you should try to get the leadership. You earn leadership. And Dak earned leadership. Dak got stripes from things that he's been through. Dallas has defensive ends, just needs to keep them healthy. Yeah, they've had some serious injuries with that too. What's going on, D-Rail? How's it going? Marlon says, let's hope Sam Williams doesn't have any setbacks. You know what? I'm going to tell you something, Marlon Brando. I don't think the Cowboys need to be waiting on Sam Williams. I don't think they need to be waiting on Trayvon Diggs. And I don't think they need to be waiting on DeMarion Overshown, Sam Williams, any of these guys. They need to go in the draft and free agency and address all of these positions as if these guys aren't going to be here. The problem with this team, they put too much into, especially guys coming back off injuries. That's dumb. That is dumb. Don't put your hope in guys coming off of injuries, because this is one of the reasons why I think the Cowboys, they force, not by force, I guess, but they encourage players come back from injury early. I did a video about it just yesterday. Stephen Jones and Mike McCarthy. You could tell Mike McCarthy visibly uncomfortable when they're asking him about Trayvon Diggs' injury. Talking about it's unrelated. It is related. It's all the same knee. Stop it. Stephen Jones comes back, says something different. It's been an ongoing battle for 2 years. He had to play with fluid on his knee. He had to? Is that in his contract? Why would you want him to come back hurt? I was looking at X. DeMarion Overshown released a video. He not only got one knee worked on, y'all, he got two worked on. Y'all remember what we did last year? We came into last year banking on Michael Gallup. How did that work out? How did that work out? We got to stop every time this team beats a sorry team and racks up a lot of stats, beating sorry teams, and then because stats against sorry teams, they equate into the pile of whatever your stats are. You could be a 15 touchdown wide receiver because you've played 5 terrible teams in a row. They're all playing backup cornerbacks. They're on their third string cornerbacks, and you racked up 15 touchdowns. And then you get to that one tough team. Everybody says, oh, yeah, George is great. Hey, he's great. He's great. He's got 15 touchdowns over the last 5 games. Did we look at the competition? Then we wonder when George comes up against Surtain or some of these top cornerbacks, wow, I can't believe he didn't register any catches. I can. Because I'm looking at the games. I'm not just looking at the stats. I'm looking at the tape, and I'm looking at how he's doing these things. And this is why we got to stop this, because we keep thinking that we're something that we're not. We're gauging ourselves from game to game. No, we need to wait till all these games are over and then look at these games individually against the competition and stop looking at an average saying, hey, this is what this guy did. Okay, the averages are great. But what I like to do is say, hold on. I don't want to know what Micah Parsons did against the terrible, the absolute terrible Carolina Panthers. I want to know what they did against the Bengals. Show me what they're doing in the losses. Who are they losing to? This defense. It's amazing how we look against. It's amazing. Let me pull up something, and then I'm going to go to my cons on Micah Parsons before I get out of here. Actually, I'm going to do the late show tonight, so we're probably going to come back for the late show. I got a meeting at 6:30. I'm going to come back with my cons about this thing of what Micah Parsons is doing, because what he's doing is also very dangerous. It's very dangerous. But when I start looking at, everyone keeps judging, for example, they keep judging Cooper Rush on a curve. I notice how they keep talking how he's playing against bad teams. I don't want to know how he's playing against the bad teams if I'm a quarterback looking for him to come to my franchise and he could possibly be the starting quarterback. No, I want to know what he looks like against competition. How did he look against the Eagles this year? Terrible. How did he look against the Texans? Terrible. How did he look against the Commanders? Better. How did he look against the Giants? Better, but decent. How did he look against the Bengals? Terrible. How did he look against the Panthers? Great. When I average all that out, I see a trend. See, whenever you're into investing or you're playing the stock market, you don't look necessarily at the average. You want to look at the trends. You want to look at what's happening inside of the numbers. What's making this happen? Why is it not happening here when it's happening here? So I'll know how to invest. Well, if I'm looking at making an investment at my quarterback and I'm looking at how it's happening here and there, then I'm looking at Cooper Rush and I'm saying, no, he can't be my starting quarterback, but he can be my backup. What is he now? 3-3 in a 6-game stretch. It's pretty much backup quarterback. Okay, I got it. See, we're in the soft part of the schedule. Dak Prescott was playing during the hardest part of the schedule. The hardest part of the schedule, where Mike McCarthy was acting a pure nut with the play calling. The hardest part of the schedule, where the injuries started happening all over the place. The hardest part of the schedule against the hardest teams is where Dak is in there. Then Dak gets hurt right at this soft part of the schedule, because this is the part of the schedule the Cowboys are trying to get to. They knew they were a young team. They were willing to, if they could get to the part of the schedule to where you're at about the 11 or 12, you're about the 11 or 12 game range, and you're somewhere around 6-4. You're 6-4. Well, you're looking at the end of that schedule going, look at these teams we got coming up now. We've owned the NFC. We can probably pull out about 5 of the last 6, go into the playoffs 11-6 with these young guys, and we're done. Didn't happen like that because everybody's been getting hurt. Everybody's been getting hurt. But that's why when I start looking at this, and even when I'm looking at Micah Parsons, even when I'm looking at Dak Prescott, even when I'm looking at Mike McCarthy, I want to know, what are they looking like? What are they looking like in these games? What are they looking like? And so Michael just took all those arguments off the table, basically. It's genius what he did. Don't get it twisted. We're thinking $40 million without looking at these contracts. Well, who's making $40 million? Who's making that? So Micah is saying he don't have to get, because that would basically mean 35 or 40 anticipating Myles Garrett. He's saying I don't need that. There's no difference in 40 and 30. Because he knows that 40 was going to be a battle to the finish. 40 million was about to be a battle to the finish for Micah Parsons, that he probably would have been, just like CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, either getting signed at the last minute or for 40 million, they might would have took Micah Parsons into the regular season. I mean, you never know. If Micah asked for 40 million, what do the Cowboys do? Because I'd already said that there's no way I would have made him the highest paid defensive end in the league, especially at no 40 million. So what Micah is doing is genius, because we're acting like he's lowballing the Cowboys by saying there's no difference in 30 and 40 million. How is he lowballing? And 30 million would have put you at number 2. How was that lowballing? Because Micah Parsons hasn't been the number 1 defensive end in football. No, that belongs to the Nick Bosas, the Myles Garrett. That don't belong to him. He can't even say what Dak Prescott could say last year. I mean, it is an absolute robbery. It's absolute robbery. And I'm going to close on this. I'll be back tonight for the Lay Show. It is absolute robbery that Dak Prescott didn't win MVP of the league last year. Because the numbers that Lamar Jackson has this year justifies the MVP this year. But the numbers he had last year did not justify being MVP. It didn't. It did not justify it. But these cowards were afraid to do it because they didn't want the backlash of making Dak Prescott the MVP. And then the Cowboys just so happened, what would happen if they made him the MVP and they didn't get out of the first round? Doggone it, they didn't get out of the first round. But then we make the same argument. We'll make a different argument for Lamar Jackson. He can't get out of the first round either. No matter what round you put him in, he can't get out of it. Unanimous MVP. What do? He's 2-5 too. He's 2-5 too. What do? They were cowards last year, and it goes to show you, because this year you could literally make the argument, Josh Allen, you're having a great year, but Lamar Jackson is killing it. You could even make the argument, Joe Burrow is killing it, but of course he don't have enough wins. I'm about to get out of here. Yeah, Jay Recruiter, you think property taxes are high in Texas? Go to California. Marlon Brando says if Michael gets 3 or 4 more sacks this season, he can ask for $35 million. He's already thrown that off the table. See, he's negotiating. You got to understand, Marlon Brando, what he's doing is genius. He's negotiating in the court of public opinion like the Joneses. He's setting the mark for his contract. Everyone's looking at $30 million, acting like it's chump change. No, that puts you at number 2. That puts you at number 2. Does he need to be paid more than Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa? I could make a serious argument. No way, no how. Nisi said, second, sign all the players you want to keep. Third, cut or trade the big money players on the team. Exactly. Fourth, Jerry, don't you dare step foot on that yacht until you have worked out agency properly. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Nisi. Troy Dudley, guess nobody ever told Brady. I got an argument on this about Brady too, Troy, because that's exactly where I'm going is with Tom Brady. Y'all gonna have to come tune in for the late show. I got a meeting, and what I'll do is I'll tune in after the game tonight. May come back sooner, depending upon how good the game is. The Monday night games were atrocious, so I may come back early. But again, let's talk Cowboys when we talk facts. Y'all come back for the late show. I will be back at some point tonight. So all you folk who go to bed early, don't go to bed early. I see you. What's going on, Ultra? 70s, Lone Star. All y'all, if y'all be up, y'all come back to light tonight. Let's talk Cowboys. We talk facts.